Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen James, the channel that brings you your team every single day, guys. Don't miss out. Smash that sub. We're so close to 6,000 subscribers now. Only 19 away to help us get there. Well, guys, it is seemingly like things are starting to move. Possibly the transfer market is starting to move for Rangers, and possibly we could be clearing nearly £95,000 worth of wages off the wage bill. We'll talk a little bit about that. Links to a number of players who look like they could be on their way out of the door in the coming days. Also, a little bit of frustration for Rangers surrounding Abdallah Sima. We've got some news about Brighton and what they're currently doing with Abda, a move that could very much frustrate Rangers' attempts to bring him back to Ibrox. So hang on for that. That is coming up in the video. So look, we know that the transfer market at this moment in time is very stagnant for Rangers. Why is it stagnant? Because as we have been told repeatedly now by Philippe Clement, by Alex Ray, the case is that we have to sell to buy. Part of this obviously is to raise funds for purchasing players because we don't have the funds available. And the other thing, of course, is because the squad is unnaturally bloated. Around 30 players currently on the squad. The wage bill is one of the highest, if not the highest, in Scotland. Our wage bill is actually, incidentally, higher than 20 Ashende, who finished third in the Eredivisie last year, which is quite incredible. So let's have a look at what has been said and what is the current reporting status as regards a number of players. So the players we speak of are these four players who are on pretty, well, apart from Scott Wright, on pretty decent wages. So there have been links over the last few days and reports that these four players could well be on their way out of Ibrox within this week. Now, Connor Goldson, which we'll talk about in this video, £37,000 a week, which, I still think is absolutely ridiculous that he's on that much. Scott Wright, again, there's been talks around him and his exit as resurfaced today. James Tavernier, £30,000 a week. And Yanis Hadji. Now, we know that Yanis Hadji's agent never stops talking. We know that Yanis Hadji's agent loves the sound of his own voice. £21,000 a week. So, that would equate to around £94,000 a week heading out of the door, which would obviously free up a good deal of wages to actually go and buy players. Now, combine that with transfer fees, and you could have a situation where Rangers could finally have some money to go and buy perhaps a couple of players and pay some pretty decent wages to those players to get them through the door. I mean, freeing up 94,000 is a considerable amount of money. Okay, in Premier League terms, in English Premier League terms, it's nothing. I mean, 94 grand probably doesn't even pay most of the salary of most of the top 4, top 5, top 6 clubs players in England. But, in terms of Rangers, it is a substantial amount that can be used wisely and reinvested. Okay, so let's start off with, we're going to talk about those three now. We're not going to touch on Tav today. We know that Tav has been the subject of a bit of by Trabzon. Also, it's been rumoured that Besiktas are coming in as well. We don't know yet what the situation is with that. We know that Trabzon came in with a bid. It was rejected. We know that they're coming back in. We've heard with another around £4 million bid, which I think would represent excellent business. Can I just repeat something I said on videos at the end of last week and when this story emerged? There's Rangers fans talking about getting, 10, 12, 15, 13, 14, 15, 16 million pounds for James Tavernier. I'm sorry, but you're living in absolute cloud cuckoo land if you think we're going to get anywhere near that amount for him. The guy is going to be 33 next year. He has declined rapidly in terms of his defensive abilities. There is absolutely no chance on God's green earth that we would get anywhere south of that 10 million mark. It's just not realistic. And if you're saying that the club should be demanding 10 million, 12 million, 15 million, then you're basically saying that you want him to stay because they're not going to get that. So we start off with Connor Goldson. Now, we know that Connor Goldson flew out of Prestwick Airport yesterday. We know that he was heading for Cyprus. Now, there's been quite a lot of rumour and conjecture over why he was heading to Cyprus. Obviously not for a family holiday, even though Cyprus obviously is a very nice place for a family holiday. We know as well that he's probably not going clubbing in the Napa. So that's another one out. Can't imagine Connor having it large, big fish, little fish, cardboard box in the Napa. I think he's probably a little bit too old for that now. So we do think that he was heading out to Cyprus for a medical. Now, there was reports surfaced yesterday that may not necessarily just be Aris Limassol, that it could well be a Saudi club, because a number of times Saudi clubs don't always do their medicals in Saudi, the same way that Rangers often will do their medicals in London. But it has now emerged that is not the case, that it looks like it is Aris Limassol, who have been long-time admirers of Connor Goldson. The rumoured fee is £2.5 million. Now, I know that Transfer Market has got his value around €5 million, which is about £4.5 million. Some people might see £2.5 million as a bit of an insult, but I think the situation is this. Number one, look, let's be absolutely honest. Clubs know that we need to sell. Clubs know there are certain players we want to sell. Clubs know that there are certain players who want to exit the club this summer. Therefore, meaning that it is a buyer's market. The summer is much more a buyer's market than January. Everyone knows in January, you're desperate, they start overcharging for players. However, the opposite is true in the summer. Whether they know you need to sell, they know you need to raise money, they're going to come in and they're going to lowball you. And you realistically know that you've got to take that offer, or you're going to be stuck with the player, because that's just how it works. So, realistically, again, we're not going to get £4.5 million for Connor Goldson. It's just not realistic. Like I said, because of the fact that it is a buyer's market, because clubs are lowballing us, because we've already made it clear that we don't want these players, that we need to sell these players, which is a very bad bit of marketing. And also the fact as well, like I said, that he like James Tavernier, is 31, 32 years old. He is not getting any younger and he is not getting any better. Therefore, meaning transfer fees will not be as high. It's modern supply and demand, isn't it? So it's rumored to be around £2.5 million for Goldson. Now, we understand that there is a medical taking place. Now, I also understand that if there's a medical taking place, then there has been a bid accepted. A club is unlikely to let another club perform a medical on one of its players if there has not been a fee agreed for the player. So we're just kind of waiting for Rangers to confirm the arrival of Rangers to confirm the departure, of Connor Goldson. Now, look, I know that some of you may have misconceptions and may have, worries about Connor departing. Connor has been a very good servant for the club over the years, part of 55. Very good organizer, very good communicator back. But I think if you look at the sort of last season, and I'm not just about the end of last season, I'm talking about, going forward through last season. He seemed to get worse rather than better. He seemed to decline as the season went on. He seemed to be the Joe Biden of Rangers defense, the way he went backwards. He conceded the same goal time and time again. And really struggled. And it did seem that by the end of the season, that even Philippe Clement had grown tired of him and was prepared to allow him, to be dropped. And he did drop him. I think it was a dropping, even though, yes, he did end up being injured. I think that obviously came well after the fact. So, look, Goldson is on his way out. It looks like it's to Aris Limassol. Wish him all the best. Interesting move for the player. Not somewhere I would have seen him going. Aris do have quite wealthy financial backers, so there is funds there to pay wages. There is funds there for the transfer fee. I did see some very strange comments, I think some quite arrogant comments as regards Aris. Oh, they're never going to be able to pay his wages or pay a transfer fee from him. It's only Aris Limassol. Well, I think, sometimes we kind of lose track of the fact that certain clubs around the world in non-stylish leagues are ultimately backed by very strong financial backers. And I think this is a case of that. So that's the first one. Now, the other one that is going around at the moment is Yanis Hadji returning to Fiorentina. Yanis Hadji obviously had a very impressive Euros. But the one concern you've got to have over Yanis Hadji is the fact that Yanis has only got a year left on his deal. Now, what does that mean? Why does that matter? Well, it matters for this reason. If you have a player who has only got a year left on their deal, it substantially lowers their market value, because coaches and presidents of other clubs know that, well, you know what, we can pretty much go in with, again, a low ball offer, because you know what, they're gonna, in a year's time, he's going to be free anyway. So that club probably wants to get rid of him for something. They don't want to lose him for nothing in a year's time. They want to get some sort of fee in for him. So they're probably going to accept a pretty low ball offer. Again, They know we need to sell. They know we need money. And again, we've placed ourselves in this financial position. Now, Hagi did have 2 years on in playing for Fiorentina, only made 2 appearances before returning to Romania, then heading obviously to Genk before coming to Rangers. So, he has been there before. He has played for La Viola before. Fiorentina, a famous name in Italian football. Those of you who remember those glorious days of Gazzetta Football Italia with Gabriele Battistuta playing for Fiorentina, certainly a club I remember, very in their famous purple shirts. So it looks like Hagi could well be heading for that, that destination, the destination of the beautiful city of Florence. Now, the rumors are that because he's in that final year of his contract, that will greatly depress that value, as I've said, and it could be as little as 1.5 to 2 million pounds for Hagi. Now, I know certain people had hopes of getting an awful lot more for Hagi, somewhere in the region of perhaps 4.5, 5 million pounds in him. Right, he's very good euros for, maybe even 6 million pounds. But realistically, like I said, because we are in the position that we are as regards players, it does look like that 1.5 million is much more realistic. Now, again, reports are emerging that as his manager, his agent has said that there are clubs interested, and clubs will be taking him off Rangers' hand, and he is highly unlikely to return to Rangers pre-season training and will be going to join a new club. So it does seem highly likely that this could well be the move for Yanis Hagi. Now, there is not as yet any official confirmation from the club. It remains to be seen whether Rangers would accept that lower bid. I do think, however, that Rangers are, like I said, in a very tough position when it comes to Yanis Hagi. He has 12 months left on his deal. All it takes is, that move to then get turned down, and Yanis can literally sit on his hands for 12 months, and in 12 months, he gets all the money. So, look, it is a case of, perhaps cutting our losses, looking at how we can get in a fee, looking at how we can raise a little bit of cash towards building this squad, and even 1.5 million is better than nothing. Yes, not what we wanted, and I know that will make certain people very angry, and they'll say, well, no way. But like I said, the issue you've got there is we're in this position where a player's got 12 months. You cannot demand a massive fee, because all the buying club will do is go, I'm going to wait 12 months and get him for nothing. And then you're going to lose out on a fee. And also the fact that, again, clubs know we want to sell. The moment you make it clear you want to sell, the moment you make it clear that you've got to sell, you depress the market around your players. That's just a fact of life. Now, the other rumour that has again surfaced over the last couple of days is the Scott Wright to Sheffield Wednesday move. Sheffield Wednesday reportedly are ready to resume their transfer business, and Scott Wright is a reported £500,000 target for Sheffield Wednesday. Look, Scott Wright, I thought, did okay on Saturday. He wasn't brilliant. He wasn't terrible. He was just Scott Wright. He was quite creative at times. He was quite good going forward, but his end product was absolutely appalling. His final ball into the box was appalling. His final shot was appalling. His approach play was very neat and tidy and was all right. But that's Scott Wright. That's Scott Wright all over. Now, I've got no doubt in my mind that he'll probably go to the Sheffield Wednesday and do okay for them. Danny Rule is a very good coach, a new coach, obviously, who came in and helped save Sheffield Wednesday from relegation, which seemed very much against the odds given how badly they had been playing for most of the championship season. But if we can get £500,000 for Scott Wright, that's that represents decent business. This is again a player who you're not going to get a king's ransom for. You're not going to be able to sell for £2-3 million. It just is unrealistic, and I think even £1 million is unrealistic for Scott Wright. He just has not got that talent, that ability. And if Sheffield Wednesday do want him, £500,000, fine, done, sold to the club in blue and white. I'd be quite happy with that. I'd be over the moon with that, in fact. Now, if we were to take all those rumoured fees, £4 million for Tav, £1.5 million for Hagi, 2.5 for Goldson, £500,000 for Scott Wright, that would raise a prospective £8.5 million for Rangers. Now, if, and this is the big if, that money was then committed all back into the squad, you could get a couple of decent players for that amount of money. It's been talked of, Seema, £4 million. That Adama Traore was talked of at about £4 million. So, that would get in those two players, or even perhaps go towards paying for a centre half. Now, Look, 8.5 million, yes, I agree, is not a king's ransom. And I agree that 8.5 million in modern football terms is actually not a lot of money. It's probably the average transfer in the Premier League. I don't know what that is actually. I will have to look into that one. But look, it's still money coming into the club. It's still money that can be reinvested. And, it's 4 players out of the door, and it's again a real, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? A real kind of start of this revolution. It's really pushing out the door and a real, clear vision that we are going for this new new start for the club. James Tavernier, Connor Goldson are all players that have been at this club for a very, very long time, and this is a real start. Back into the Premier League, into resetting this team, into putting this team back where it belongs. Generating income to buy new players, changing the old guard, putting in a completely new dressing room in terms of the players within it, putting in a new leadership group, changing everything, and that's what we need to do at this club. Yes, at this moment in time, financially, Celtic are miles ahead of us, and at the moment, in terms of trophies won, they're catching us up too rapidly. Certainly, but we do need to move, and we do need to move quickly. And if we can get these 4 out the door this week, it could represent a chance then to bring some in, at least a couple in, before the end of this week. Now, given the fact that the European squad for that Champions League qualifier against Dinamo Kiev and Partizan Belgrade needs to be confirmed by the 1st of August. So the confirmation date for the Euro squad is the 1st of August. So any players that, and obviously, signed after that date cannot be considered, for that squad. So we've got to really move quickly if we want to bring in some stronger players for that Champions League qualifier against Dinamo Kiev or Partizan Belgrade. So there we go. The date is the 1st of August. Now, one player who had been linked with a move to Rangers and looks like it could be a frustrated one now is Abdallah Sima, who looks very odd in that kit, doesn't he? Very strange. Not as good as he looks in a Rangers top. Look, you know how much I love Abda. Abda's fantastic. Now, according to Brighton fan media, and also the club as well, the club's website as well, Abdallah Sima has gone out with Brighton on their pre-season tour. He is accompanying their first team squad. He is part of the first team squad plans. They have certainly not done what we've done in the case of Todd Cantwell and Sam Lammers and relegated them to the B team. Sima apparently is also reportedly ready to get starting minutes against Kashima Antlers in their next upcoming game, which is upcoming very soon indeed. Now, this could be a setback for Rangers for a couple of reasons. One, if he goes out and impresses and does well for Brighton in this pre-season, could it be that their new head coach decides he wants to keep him? And then obviously that is a very much a frustrated situation for Rangers. Or number 2, it puts him in the shop window. He goes out, he has a successful tour, he plays well in the forthcoming games that he's involved in. Other teams see this. They see what a talented player he clearly is. He is a fast, quick, strong, direct winger who knows where the goal is. They come in with a bid. If it's an English club, again, they have more substantial budgets, which means they can obviously gazump anything Rangers can offer him. So, look, it's a difficult position, but it's interesting, isn't it, that Brighton have taken him, that Brighton clearly don't see any imminent transfer of Abdallah Sima to any club anywhere, that they've actually taken him with them on the pre-season tour, and they want to use him and see, how he has sort of adapted to how he has developed during his loan spell at Rangers. And look, for me, it's a worrying development. I would much prefer to keep Abda. I think he's a good player. I really would look like to have got that bid in, but as we know, we can't buy yet until we generate some money. And if it is that it takes obviously Tav and Goldson and Wright and Hadji heading out the door, which I think personally would make a good start. I think we still need to put another couple out. It would raise some money, and I think would, hopefully put us in a position to go back in for Abda. Who knows, guys? Who knows? But, interesting news nonetheless that he's out with Brighton on their pre-season tour. Now, this week, obviously, we build up towards the Birmingham game on Wednesday night, followed by the Union Berlin game on Saturday. So 2 games where we've got to start to put it together. Now, I'm not saying the complete performance. I am not saying I want to see. I'll rephrase that. I do want to see, but what I'd be happy to see. Let me start again. I do want to see us playing like prime Real Madrid or prime Barcelona. Unlikely to happen. But what I do want to see is the start of an emergence of a pattern of play, a pattern of attacking, a pattern of defending, more assertive, more aggressive, more pace, just a bit more oomph to what we actually do. A bit of actually looking asked to play for the club would be nice over the next couple of games. So that we can go into that game against Hearts with perhaps a little more optimism than some of us are currently facing that game with. And I think there is a lot of negativity within the fan base at this moment in time towards this squad and this team and their chances of obviously getting 12 points from the opening 4 games. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered in the video today. Thank you, as always, for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. Please obviously smash that sub, help the channel to keep on growing. On the way out, 2 things I always ask of you. 1, smash the like, please. It helps. It really helps. And also remember always, we are the people.